Attention podcast listener, we've got an exciting new podcast coming just for patrons of patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
Talking Futurama Season 2 Part 1 has begun exclusively for our $5 and up patrons on the Talking Simpsons Network. That's the first 10 episodes of Futurama coming to you once a week.
So just sign up for $5 a month at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons, and you'll get Talking Futurama Season 2 and all of our limited miniseries, including the entirety of Talking Futurama Season 1. That's 13 episodes.
That is patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. Now please enjoy the rest of this podcast.
Cartoons from present and the past. Every week will be an animated bash. What a cartoon! What a cartoon! Maybe a short but mostly shows. We'll talk, we'll analyze, exploring as we go. What a cartoon! What a cartoon! What a cartoon! What a cartoon!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to What a Cartoon, where podcasting makes us feel purple. I'm your host, the surrounded by spikes and fire Bob Mackey, and this is an audio exploration of every cartoon ever. Who is here with me today?
Henry Gilbert and Mike Candy.
And who is our special guest today?
Craig of the Creek co-creator and showrunner Matt Burnett.
Excellent. And today's episode is the Craig of the Creek episode, Under the Overpass.
Oh no! Clutchosaurus!
Sorry, JP.
I guess it was his time. Take it squeezy, Clutchosaurus.
Aw. Yes, so this has been a podcast a year in the making.
Yeah.
Because Matt Burnett is finally here to talk about his great cartoon, Craig of the Creek, co-created with Ben Levin out on assignment right now.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming. This is also, if you hear different room tone listeners, that's because we're in our Burbank recording satellite studio.
Lormar Manor.
Lormar, yeah. We can't tell that story on here, but Matt, you did our Talking Simpsons last year. And now here you are on the podcast, man.
Yes, happy to be back.
And this time I'm not violently ill with some sort of super virus. I've decided to stop getting sick before I come to LA now. It's really worked out for me.
That's a
Good decision making, yeah.
But man, you and Ben created Craig of the Creek. Like, it's such a fun show. I just really like the kids are so fun, and then also like the references for old timers like me. I really appreciate them too.
Thanks. Yeah, I think like the references for old timers are like I think that we really try and think of it as an all ages show, and I think it's like that kind of stuff gives something to the parents, and that's always we love that kids are watching the show, but it's always nice when we hear that like parents can watch it with their kids, and I have kids, and it's always great to be able to find that show that doesn't like drive you absolutely out of your mind to have to sit through 22 minutes of or something. So.
I think it's great that you're teaching Gen Z about ska.
Yeah, of course. That's a Ben life goal, I guess, to bring ska back to extreme prominence, although he might argue it never died.
Never went away.
Never in his heart.
If you looked in the right places, it was always there.
Yeah.
It's something that really strikes me, Craig, is how the parents in it are like my age, or their references seem to be like, oh, they're like me. Oh no, I'm old.
Yeah. Making people who we love, who watch cartoons, who are like our age, being like recognizing like we're a little older now. That's what we're viewed as. We're not the kids running around in the woods. We are the kids with those kids, telling them to not climb in trees and fall to their doom.
Well, Matt, I guess the first question I'd ask about the show is how much of Craig of the Creek was inspired by like your childhood?
So like almost entirely it was inspired by both Ben and I. We grew up on the East Coast in separate areas. Ben's proudly from Maryland, like Rebecca and Ian from OKKO and Steven Universe. And I'm from South Jersey, outside of Philadelphia. And we both grew up in these suburbs where we had these wooded areas that we could sort of escape to. We have so many memories of just screwing around in those woods and being completely out of sight and out of mind from adults and getting to kind of make our own rules and our own world there. And it's funny, once we sort of like latched onto that as something we wanted to kind of build a show around, we both revisited our old spots. We took trips home, and it was like, oh, these woods are much smaller than I remember. I think Ben always says like, you can see the other side of the street through the woods that I thought was like an endless forest. You can just look straight through and see the house on the other side. But, you know, when you're a kid, that perspective of like, you're little, so everything seems bigger. That's sort of like a philosophy we took to the show. But yeah, so much of it is just based on us running around in the woods, getting up to not no good. We were doing fun, creative stuff in there.
Yeah. I mean, I think people assume the outdoor lives of children have changed a lot, but obviously this show connects with kids. It's very popular.
Yeah, and I think that you know, we didn't want to, it was based on our childhoods, but we didn't want to make a show about kids growing up in the late 80s, early 90s. We wanted it to be about modern kids. So we don't shy away from the fact that, you know, these kids have their phones with them and they can call and text each other and they shoot videos of themselves and stuff. Because that's what I think kids do go out in the world and maybe they interact with it a little bit differently. But there's definitely like kids are going out there just shooting videos of themselves doing silly stunts on a playground and creating a YouTube channel and thinking that they're some kind of hilarious vlogger once they get like 10 friends from their class who follow them. They're like, I'm a celebrity at my school. And I think the kids want to get out there, kids want to do stuff, and we want to also just encourage that amongst kids who maybe haven't considered that.
That's great to hear.
So
Yeah, I remember in the Big Pinchy episode, the great gag of like, they were searching for, you know, a mystery, this legendary thing, and you know, we've seen stories like that before, but in this one, they're like, well, no, we're going to film it with our phones.
Yeah, Pixar didn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. The Delaware, New Jersey, Maryland feel like that definitely was a big part of Steven Universe. Was that a big thing you wanted to continue on in Craig then?
Yeah, for sure. I think that East Coast sensibility, and it's just innate to our childhoods, and we're pulling so much from that. And so much of Ben's hometown in particular is in there. There's a lot of areas that are directly photo-referenced off of. So things like Craig's house is basically laid out like Ben's house is because it was very easy to put together a house with photo reference and give it to the background team and be like, this is a good blueprint to start working off of. There's a convenience chain that's referenced that's called Duck Mart, which is based on Wawa, my favorite East Coast
Wawa
chain, which we named it Duck Mart and put it in the show, and then I thought about it for like more than 5 seconds and I was like, oh wait, it's a goose. That's what the logo of Wawa is. It's a goose, not a duck. Oh, well, Duck Mart sounds pretty good, so we'll stay with that, yeah.
So when did you and Ben meet? In college, I would guess?
Yeah, Ben and I both went to New York University, starting back in 2001. We went to film school there, and we didn't start hanging out until probably around sophomore year. We started hanging out, and we both went for film. There's not a specific animation major there, but you kind of get to start to pick your classes, and we both sort of gravitated towards animation and really started to like make that our thing to sort of differentiate ourselves from the million people who wanted to be Martin Scorsese. And then, and it was a skill to have to be able to say, oh, I can draw, I'll storyboard your short film or whatever. But we just kind of hung out in college and we were friends and we were both working on our own stuff. And then after college, we just had a similar sensibility and it was like, well, maybe we should work on some stuff ourselves together. Maybe we can do a little writing together. We took improv classes in New York at Upright Citizens Brigade together.
Okay. You're a UCB student. Wow.
Yeah, not to any acclaim at all. But we did do improv for a couple of years, and it was a lot of fun, and it really, I think it helped us figure out the kind of like looseness that we like to do with our comedy. But yeah, we just met in college and started working together afterwards, and it was in the sort of early days of YouTube, and we kind of thought like, oh, hey, there's like Newgrounds was out and it was big and it was a lot of flash animation and stuff, but traditionally drawn animation didn't have a huge presence yet. There was certainly stuff out there, but it wasn't huge. And we just thought, hey, if we could do something simple but looked like, oh, wow, these people really sat down and drew it, it could go well. So that's what led us to start making stuff for the web.
Yeah, I was going to ask like what Ben and you probably had a lot of similar interests in anime and D&D and Magic the Gathering.
I bring the Dungeons and Dragons and the Magic the Gathering to the equation, and Ben brought more of the anime. He was into anime more than I was, although I was familiar with it, and he brings ska, and we're both big Simpsons lovers, but I didn't, as I mentioned on the episode a year ago, I didn't come to it till later, and Ben like worshipped that stuff way before I did, and and just comedy and Kids in the Hall, MST3K, all of that stuff. It just was, we had a lot of similar interests, and the stuff that we didn't have in common really complemented each other. So,
I think the one time I saw, you don't tweet that much, it's a good idea if you're running a TV show to not tweet that much, but I think the one time I saw you tweet recently was about Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, we don't need to get into that. I was complaining, but
I'm sorry.
As Magic fans are
There's some stuff going on in Magic,
yeah.
Those tastes that you and Ben have that really came out in, let's talk about Ronin Dojo Community College.
Yeah, Ronin Dojo Community College DX, which was just we were in the long, funny titles that would be, obtuse and difficult to say and confuse our parents when we were trying to explain what we were doing. But Ronin Dojo Community College DX was just, our first short was a short called I'm in Your Manger, Killing Your Savior. That was just about a nativity play, but in the three wise men were being played by three LARPing nerds. And who ruined the whole play by treating it like some D&D quest. Instead of frankincense and myrrh, they're giving lightning shields to the baby Jesus to defend himself. That just started us being that started with us being nerds, being different kinds of nerds, but being interested in what the other guy was interested in, and thinking the nerds that we aren't. It felt like at the time nerds are still portrayed in a very old pocket protector kind of, we all talk like this, even though one of the Ronin Dojo characters talks pretty close to that. But we just wanted to kind of portray a more modern take on fans and geeks, and that was all rising up back. That was I think the first thing came out in 2007. I think the first one we put out was,
the one I watched today for research involved the release of Metal Gear Solid 4. It was a parody of that, so that really puts
Phoenix
it in time.
Saga, Cold Phoenix Saga, which
very funny.
Ben is a big Metal Gear guy. He brought that to the table, and I have enough knowledge of it to be able to riff on it. So
there is so much nerd content out there, but 12 years ago, not so much.
It was very Venture Brothers preceded us for sure, and was probably, to be honest, an influence. But it was that sensibility of hey, we're nerds about this stuff. We can kind of make it fun and not be too serious about ourselves, and be able to make fun of ourselves, but also, we love those characters. They're lovable losers.
How close are you guys to your characters that you voice in it?
Well, I guess I'm probably kind of close to Barry. There's Mark, Barry, and David. And David is just sort of the punching bag, the shrimpy guy. And Barry is kind of a big, lovable dude. And then Mark is more of the alpha nerd kind of jerk. So that's pretty far for Ben. Ben is a really sweet dude. And that's a bit of a stretch. But the things they're into, I think that we are... they're total reflections.
And those guys would, not to skip ahead in the timeline, but those guys are very similar to the Elders of the Creek.
They have the same name and tweaked character design, because we had a professional character designer on our show that could do a better job than we did. Ronin Dojo characters were brought into Craig of the Creek because we really wanted to make a show that could only come from us and that was personal, and so it pulled a lot from our childhood, and then those characters and that sort of geek world was something that was very close to us. It was how we started our careers together, so it felt natural to bring them in as sort of the teenagers that everyone else has left the creek except for them, so they're the teens that still hang out, and they're treated like the elders of the creek. They're the sages because they, remember video games more than 10 years old or something.
Yeah. What drove me to content like your web series was the fact that it was made by people my age who are not yet in the entertainment industry. So they're referencing things I grew up with. With the Venture Brothers, those guys are 10 or 15 older than us. So it's I kind of know what the 70s are based on references. So I'm meeting you halfway, but I'm not fully there.
Yeah.
And the D&D stuff, tabletop RPGs, I was super into for about 5 years, but White Wolf, I didn't get into D&D though. But
okay, I did a little bit of White Wolf. I did a little bit of White Wolf playing.
But the way you guys capture D&D and so in Kelsey the Elder in that episode where it starts out with the DM being so insistent that you have to fight this monster and he won't change his plans, that was so realistic to how a jerky DM can be in a bad game.
Yeah, there's no wrong way to play those games, but there's certainly different ways to play those games, and some of them don't mesh quite as well. And it totally is that experience of like, I think the guys I grew up with playing the game with, it was great and it was a lot of fun, but there's definitely like more math nerds, and then there's more art nerds, and I was more of an art nerd, and I played with some more math nerds who were more about, well, let's like min-max our characters and create it's all about sort of like beating this challenge, and me, I was like, whatever, I'll take the lowest intelligence score possible, and then I get to play this very dumb character, and I'll do things that ruin the adventure for everyone because, hey, that's what my character would do, much to the chagrin of everyone at the table.
Yeah, that's like your UCB improv skills too coming in there. Yeah,
totally, yeah.
Did the success of those like open doors for you guys career-wise, or did it just was that kind of in addition to you guys working on other stuff?
It definitely did. Doing stuff on our own, it really was like our business card that we could show to say, hey, here's like a finished thing. We're not just promising that we could do something. Here's a finished thing that sort of shows everything we can do. Here's how we draw, here's how we animate, here's our comedy, we wrote it, here's some of our voices, which was really not something we were like, we want to be voice actors. It was just more like, well, it's easier if we just kind of do these voices in Ben's apartment with the mattress thrown up against the window to block Queens traffic out.
You should have put a mattress up in here.
There's quite a few in this Airbnb, yeah.
Through UCB, we met a couple people who were, our teachers were working. One of our teachers was Curtis Gwynn, who would, along with John Gemberling, they did a show for early on in Adult Swim's run, relatively early, Fat Guy Stuck in the Internet. And we did a little bit of animation for the first or second episode of that show. We just did like 15 seconds of like constellations like coming to life. And then through that, we wound up meeting Jackie Clark, who was a comedian in New York at UCB, and she had something going. And we animated sort of a pilot presentation for her. Yeah. And through her, we kind of met some people out in LA in our representation. And that's how we sort of, those shorts, the fact that we could animate our own stuff, like it sort of opened things up for us.
Well, and that, I guess Fat Guy on the Internet got you into the Turner family of...
Yeah, it would have been the first Turner job, even though it was like, removed by 3 production companies and everything. But yeah, that would have been the first step, yeah.
And so when did Level Up come into your work?
So shortly after we made those LA contacts and we got representation, we were in New York and we didn't have a plan to move out here. And when we started to feel like, if you're going to come out here, if you want to sort of move on this track of being, I think at the time we were just thinking, we'll be writers, who knows what can come of it. It was like, we're going to have to move out to LA, and we were like, all right, maybe in a year or something. But we had a packet of material, a lot of the Ronin Dojo stuff was in it, some stuff we wrote about that hasn't been produced and will never be produced. But we were, it's about 3 nerds who LARP and play video games, and that was something we submitted to Cartoon Network, who at the time was starting this live action production called Level Up, and someone was like, it was a show about like an MMO coming to life in the real world. So they were like, well, here's a script by some guys who clearly know something about video games. They passed it on to Peter Murrieta, who was the showrunner, and they took a look at it, and we flew out for like 24 hours to take a meeting.
Wow.
We flew out in the middle of the night, got landed, drove to an office, took this meeting, and then just stayed at someone's house and didn't go to sleep because we had like a really early flight. So we just I remember we just watched Dumb and Dumber, and then we drove and took a flight back home. And luckily something came of it, that we got this job offer. Like within a week, it was like, okay, you start Monday. And we were like, well, it's Sunday and we're in New York, so can we have a couple days to pack? And we just threw everything in Ben's sister's car and drove across the country, and a week later we were on our first staff writing job.
Wow, man, that is an amazing.
It was really we're really blessed and fortunate that like we were able to come out here with a job, which is something I think we would have come out here eventually, but it made the transition so much. Mm-hmm. It was so nice to be able to come out here and just like hit the ground running a little bit, and it was great.
And that lasted about a year, then, right?
Yeah, it was we worked on it for about a year and a half. It was very confusing to explain to people, like, hey, like who knew us as animators of like, we're going to work for Cartoon Network. And they're like, oh, what animated show are you going to work on? Well, we're not working on an animated show. We're writing for a live action show on Cartoon Network. And people are like, what? And then it was like, oh, I guess we're going to be live action writers. But then after Level Up, we made a change and went to a different show on Cartoon Network.
Yeah, now this is a problem when I have Steven Universe people on that I just want to talk about Steven Universe all the time. But yeah, so when Steven Universe, Rebecca Sugar created. She did the pilot while at Adventure Time, and then the pilot sold and it went to a full series. So when did you and Ben enter the picture?
So we met with Rebecca before the pilot was done, because I remember we had our name, because we had worked on Level Up. Our names were on sort of a list of people that Cartoon Network were familiar with, and she actually recognized Ben's name on the list because Ben's student film, She's a Bombshell, about like kids in a car after a ska show. That was something that Rebecca, having been a New York animation person, saw and was familiar with and was like, oh, and I think that her and Ben had traded emails a little bit way back in the day, but our paths had never crossed. We were both in New York at the same time, but we never met. And then, but she recognized his name and said, okay, well, we can meet with them. And I remember we met her at a restaurant across the street from the Cartoon Network studios, and she showed us the animatic on a laptop. And we just like watched it in this little corner of a restaurant, and I was like, whoa, this is like really cool. I didn't know what to expect from this meeting, and it was just this really, it was the pilot short, exactly. It was the production animatic. And I was just like, oh, this is really cool. And it was a really nice meeting. And it was like, well, regardless of, it wasn't greenlit yet. And it was like, regardless of what happens, I hope this show gets made and I hope you have fun making it. I don't know if we'll be involved with it, but it looks really cool and it's really exciting. But I think we hit it off, and we kind of continued to actually work a little bit to do a couple early premises in the process of getting greenlit. So, because they look at this pilot that you do, and then they're also looking at, well, what can we look at? We can do beyond that. What would a series look like? So we helped write a couple premises and stuff to both help that show get greenlit and to help ourselves get hired. And then, and it was greenlit not too long after that. And we were there for the first day of production. That we were there.
Man, and Steven Universe has like such dense mythology that was revealed over like 5 seasons of TV. Like, and you guys were building that from the beginning?
So much was discovered along the way and fleshed out and changed along the way, but a lot of the core things and a lot of the things that didn't get seen until 5 years into the run of the show were things we talked about and put up on a whiteboard in those first couple weeks. It was just these sort of big pie in the sky ideas, and the mythology, I think, behind the gems and their culture and the hierarchy and stuff, it really, really did evolve. It wasn't like set in stone from the minute we came in. But I mean, Rebecca is such an amazing collaborator that she had an idea of what she wanted to do with it, but was still so open and receptive to, suggestions and changes and stuff. So it really became such a group effort to kind of create this thing with her leading the way. So it was really cool, and it was that thing where it was like, I see people wanting to get like these big, they have ideas for stories or stuff, and they're fixated on like the big reaction at the big finale, the big twist or whatever, and it's like you have to earn those things, and just knowing in that room like, wow, if we can earn this is going to be really cool. But it's probably, it's not something we can do in this like first like 13 episodes we have ordered. We have to hope that we're going to get more, and then maybe we can do it, and maybe it'll matter. And we're very fortunate to get the run that we did, to be able to stretch that out and really make those payoffs work.
I was seeing that most of your credits on Steven Universe were story by credits, and it's the same for Craig of the Creek. There are a lot of story by credits. Does that just mean you wrote the outline, or does that extend to dialogue or drawings? Like, how far does that go? So
the story by is story by outline, because they're all board-driven shows, and you write the outline. And the outline often, depending on the show, but we often, both on Steven and Craig, will put dialogue in if there's something very specific that we're looking for, or just suggestions of something funny that came up in the room of like, oh, there was this one specific joke we'd really like to see. But yeah, the story by credit is writing the outline. And for both Steven and Craig, they're pretty figured out outlines. We really looked to break down all of those story beats so there was nothing So there wouldn't be much left for the board artists to figure out in terms of like how the story would work, but really like figuring out how those scenes would go and sort of they would bring a lot to it. But yeah, breaking a story, it's much easier to change it when you're just typing into a Word doc than having to kind of throw away a bunch of drawings. So we try and like iron out any of those problems at the outline stage.
I think on our regular show podcast, Toby was telling us that the board people often don't work with the writers or the story people. Is that true on Craig of the Creek as well?
Craig is a little bit different in that most shows they try and work with the board artists as much as they can. Like on board artists, we're always allowed to able to contribute on all kinds of levels on Steven, and we would have these big meetings that like Rebecca has talked about. Like occasionally we've all gotten together at a cabin and like, hey, we got a new season. What are things we want to accomplish in the new season? We have this big meeting, and Ben and I would be there, sort of assemble notes, and then that would be like a pile of notes we would sort of work off of for the first few weeks as we figured out what the season was going to be. On Craig, we have sort of taken it a step further to really try and, when the boarders have time, to bring them into the writer's room with Jeff Trammell, who's our head writer now. And we really have them in the room, and ideally we're having them help us break the story for their like next episode down the line. So they're there to help sort of figure out like, well, what story are you interested in? Sometimes we have specific ones we need to do, but sometimes we're like, well, what are you interested in doing? And we get that germ of an idea, and then we'll sort of craft the outline after that. And so when they get the episode, it's not something they've never seen before. It's, generated off of something that they were interested in. We try and do that as much as possible. It's not always possible, but we've really, really tried to get the board artists involved, because the show, one of the principles behind the show is to really represent a wide variety of kids and the way all the different ways that kids play. And Ben and I, only represent one perspective. So we've really tried to invite the boarders into the room to bring their childhood experiences and stuff and incorporate them into the world. It's reflected down to the, like, half of the incidental characters in the background are Creek Sonas, which are just our crew members drew themselves as kids.
That's
and then
awesome.
Our character designers translated it for the incidentals. So almost like the whole staff is just wandering around in the background.
Does Jeff Trammell voice his Creek Sona?
Yes.
That's what Cannonball is.
Well, there's an actual Jeff in the show, but Jeff doesn't really ever talk. But then he voices Cannonball. But I guess if Jeff ever talked, we would have Jeff do Jeff's voice.
Yeah, you guys have such a diverse crew on it. I follow a ton of the storyboarders on Twitter because they draw some funny stuff.
Yeah.
Man, I think I forget her name. One of your boarders draws some very funny drawings of the elders.
Ashley,
yeah.
She's tremendous, and yeah, she's latched on. That's been another fun experience of like collaborating with people. Is that like Ronin Dojo, the elders? They were these characters that Ben and I created, and only Ben and I worked on because we did everything with those shorts ourselves. Then we brought them onto this show and sort of like opened it up a little bit for other people to kind of take a swing at them, and they've really run with it and made them say far more embarrassing stuff than I would be capable of thinking for them to say, but we're just game to go with it. So yeah, it's really fun.
And on Steven Universe, like a big one for you was the pro wrestling episode, right?
Yes. Yeah. We haven't gotten to the pro wrestling episode of Craig of the Creek yet.
Okay.
But it's been on there. It's been on there. Jeff, our writer, is a big wrestling fan too. So
is this an exclusive?
It's earmarked. No, it's just I put Magic in there already. I put Dungeons and Dragons. It's the wrestling thing is coming.
I've been waiting for the wrestling one. Yeah. Especially when I know that Jeff is. I'm friendly with him on Twitter. I'm like, oh, he's a mark too. I'm waiting to see this wrestling stuff in here. Yeah.
It's We'll get to it.
Well, and for you and Ben, like, what did seeing Rebecca as a showrunner, like, what did that teach you about running your own show later?
I mean, the collaboration, for sure. She was so open to ideas from everyone on the crew, and it's something that we were always open to hearing people's thoughts, because the best idea wins in the room. And then also, when we're really pushing representation in the show, everyone's got blind spots, so we're always appreciative when people are able to point out something that maybe you didn't think of, and you're able to course correct, or add a detail. Really is really where it comes into play of like, oh hey, here's this specific about me growing up in this kind of household, and then being like, oh okay, that's great, and we work that into the show and stuff. So seeing our diverse crew reflected in the show then reflects out to our audience, hopefully, to get to see themselves. Rebecca was, we were the writers on Steven, and our job, could have ended at outline, but Rebecca incorporated us into, we would sit in on records and help out, and we would sit in when we're cutting the animatic, which is cutting, I'm sure your listeners know, cutting the storyboard to the audio, and we would sit in on that and give notes, and that was where we left the process. So when we did start working on Craig, there was a whole second half that we did not know about, that we were like, that's why Rebecca comes in very tired sometimes, because there's that other half of the show that's getting made while we are just like, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Wouldn't it be funny if Amethyst did this?
So what's the most exciting part of being a showrunner?
Getting to work with so many people who are more talented than me, that in many ways, that it's like being a showrunner, you have to do a little bit of everything, where you're pre and post production. Like Ben and I, coming from sort of independent, like DIY, we were just doing everything ourselves. It's great to now have this huge team of talent to do the things that we did only because we didn't know anyone else and we were the only ones doing it. And to have so many people come in and draw, like, okay, when Ben and I would need a background, it would be like, all right, well, we'll draw the horizon line and draw a line to indicate the corner of the wall, and let's just be done with it. And but now you have all these amazing artists who can come in and draw these backgrounds and design the characters, tell stories and jokes that you never thought of, and bring in these new perspectives. I mean, that's what's really so exciting. And we work with a lot of young talent, like new to the, well, they're not new now because they've been working on the show forever, but we've had so many people who have sort of come into the industry hungry and like really just amazed us on this show. So that's really cool.
Like, when did Craig of the Creek start to manifest while you and Ben were working on Steven Universe?
It was a long time. Possibly in 2014 was maybe when the first conversations were being had about it. When I think it was like, Cartoon Network is great in that they have this, pilot development program. They so many people at the studio are given an opportunity to sort of pitch and develop ideas there. They really homegrow their talent. And we were given an opportunity to pitch, and we actually had pitched a show very early on. When we started on Steven, we pitched a show and did a storyboard on it, but it didn't go past the storyboard stage for reasons that I think now are obvious. Is that it was a fun little thing, but it wasn't this thing that only Ben and I could make. It wasn't 100% in our voice. We didn't. There was something missing from it, and I think that when we approached Craig, thinking like, this has to be something personal that comes from our lives that we can really talk about in a way that only we can. That's our approach with Craig, and we pitched it, and it took us probably a year to do the storyboard and everything. We took our time with it because we were working full time on Steven, and then once we pitched the storyboard, they approved it for production to be a short, and then it takes a long time, but it also we did it very quickly. We did it in about 9 months. We just went straight through and blew that pilot out. And then, we were greenlit a couple months after that finished, and we started production.
That's awesome. So. I remember that Ian and Toby were telling us about their pitch for OKKO, and in the animation industry, I think the SpongeBob pitch is held aloft as like the ultimate pitch, the thing that can sell your show. What was your pitch like for Craig of the Creek?
Our pitch, it had a lot of photos of the spots we grew up, and we had drawn the characters into those photos. There was a photo of me in a faux fur vest with a PVC sword and a George Foreman grill cover as my shield from a video I had done in high school to demonstrate how we were the kids who were dressing up and playing in the woods when we were kids. And it was us talking about growing up and sort of like, and also how we wanted to do a show about kids and about how kids play, and really put it, just showing that kids are capable of sort of creating these worlds by themselves, and they don't, they don't need so much structure, and they'll bring it themselves. So I'm like rambling here because I haven't pitched the show in like 3 years. But yeah, I think that was just it. It was really us leaning on like, this is kind of based on our childhood. And you get to see a little bit of that in each of the characters. You know, Kelsey represents sort of the D&D fantasy, wanting to be an adventurer. JP is just goofy and silly. And Craig really represents the spirit of the show of like kids wanting to do it for themselves and build their own world and be like, we're just as capable of making a world as the adults are, drawing maps and inventing forts and devices and stuff.
Yeah, Craig's such like this great explorer, just always curious and ready to find new things. He's a great Poochie style proactive character, but yeah, he's
where is he?
Where is Craig? Craig's not. No, but he's really a great main character for the show. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, we've worked really hard on him, and because I think it would be easy to have main characters can sometimes just those proactive characters can feel a little generic, and finding the specificity of Craig and like him being so kind of focused and proud of his drawing skills and his inventiveness. Like I was just watching something today where he's bragging about how well he can draw, which is like, he's such a nice kid, but like he kind of takes such pride in the fact that like, I can really draw. I'm the kid in class who can draw. And he's just such a like, he just drives the show, and he's such a, the world of the Creek, we created some very specific kids to sort of reflect, like the horse girls are girls who are totally into horses, and the elders are the classic D&D nerds and stuff, and the 10 speeds are BMX kids. But Craig is sort of this character. We had to create a character that would give us a reason to meet all of those different groups, but we would never have to stick with them for too long. He's sort of this character who can move between those worlds and bring those worlds together.
I was watching a video with the character designer showing the design of Craig. He's basically a brain. His head is just a brain.
Danny Hines. He's a brain with eyes. Danny, Craig, the look of Craig looked completely different in the board we pitched that was approved to production. And then they said, we would like to tweak the character design a little bit. And Danny Hines worked on Steven Universe, and we were friends with him through that. Also a Magic the Gathering fan. And it worked out that we were able to work with him on the pilot, and he just, he helped us figure out those characters, and they really I think Ben has at some point posted sketches of what they used to look like and what they look like now, and it's it's what happens when you hire professional people to do the job that they can do.
When I saw the pilot in I think it was late 2017, it was released to the public. Like sometimes like Steven Universe, the character designs are pretty different from pilot to show, but for Craig, it's pretty close. I'd say there's probably subtler things you'd notice, but
there's a little bit, but it's pretty much the same. I mean, probably a product of the fact that it was a very quick turnaround from when we finished the pilot to when we started production on the show. There wasn't a big time to kind of rethink anything, but I didn't think we wanted to, because we worked so hard on the pilot, and we really felt that they had been figured out there. I mean, the big work was like figuring out how all of those design theories and stuff from the pilot could be applied to a cast of like literally over 100 kids. There's so many characters that have been designed for the show, and Danny has done an amazing job sort of shepherding that in. So but we landed pretty confidently on what we wanted the show to look like.
And did becoming a parent change how you approached doing a kids show?
No, because I'm not writing it for them. They don't watch the show. They're still kind of young. They like it, but it's not particularly for them yet. In a couple of years, they'll like it. But I don't know. There are some things that when I have seen my kids do something, imitate something, and then we go in the show and we're like, why can't we have this character climb up this giant tree and just jump out freely? And it's like, well, because my daughter will probably do that, and I prefer to not have to deal with the consequences of that. So there's a little bit of that, but at the same time, We want to be funny. We want kids to be crazy. So.
One of my favorite funny things you guys did to what seemingly was to get around a one of those kind of rules was the stove that magically turned itself on. That was pretty great.
Yeah. Hey, I wouldn't want my daughters screwing around with my stovetop gas oven. So when we realized we couldn't do that, it was like, well, it's kind of a little bit too late to change this whole thing. So what's the simplest way we can do it? And that's Deshaun Mahone was boarding that part, and that was his simple solve for it. And we were like, yeah, sure. We're a pretty grounded show, but when it made everyone laugh so hard, it was like, well, there's no adults around, so it's kid magic. It's their imaginations.
Well,
so.
another important message this show sends to the kids is that it's a piece of pro-bird propaganda, which I am for.
Yes.
Too many shows are anti-bird, and finally we have a pro-bird show.
Yes, yeah. Mortimer, Kelsey's bird, which according to the pilot is her 38th iteration of Mortimer. But we have decided that this Mortimer will be the Mortimer for the run of the show. There's been jokes about like, maybe we could kind of just change his color scheme every so often. But no, it is Mortimer is great. He's a real bird, but certain board artists get a hold of him and have him do things in the board that he's so small in those boards on Kelsey's head. I sort of look past it, and then we'll get animation back from our partners overseas and be like, what is Mortimer just like face palming and shaking his head during this whole conversation?
Has Mortimer dabbed yet?
I don't think he's dabbed yet. He's played guitar, but he has not dabbed.
Yeah, I just love the character designs are so just fun to look at immediately. They're very attractive, and the bird being part of Kelsey's head is such a great touch. Just that it's always there, like an accessory.
Yep.
Yeah, especially and seeing her next to JP, who's just this like gangly, like
the square
giant,
black, the back of the head is just flat. Yeah, it's like Frankenstein almost.
Yeah.
And then Kelsey with her like poofy ponytail, and she's just this like square of like muscle. Yeah. And even when I saw her PVC pipe, like I love that because it was like if I could find a PVC pipe, I would swing it around and pretend to be a sword when I was a kid. Yeah.
Be careful because one of our board artists, Naja Porter, built that sword very early on in the run, like the first Halloween while we were in production. She put together a Kelsey costume and built that sword, and that sword was extremely heavy. It was extremely heavy. We were like, whoa, oh boy, I would not want to get hit with it. So
Kelsey's buff.
Yeah.
Jeez. You speak of the down-to-earthness of Craig of the Creek, did you guys want to go a little more natural after the kind of high concept stuff of Steven Universe, or was it not a reaction to it?
I think it was a little bit. I think that it was really fun to do something that was very low stakes, but treat it with the same drama and severity that we would treat things in Steven Universe. Like one of the very first episodes of the show, You're It, is about just a game of tag in the creek, but we treat being tagged and becoming it as like you're cursed with this thing that no one wants to be near you because no one wants to get tagged and be it. And it's just, Kelsey is tagged and they're trying to cure her in some way and they realize they can't end the game. So they're just going to, she's just going to leave the creek forever. And we treat it very melodramatically and stuff. But the stakes are just like, it's just tag. But treating it the way we would, a season finale of Steven Universe, that's, I think, where we get a lot of the comedy.
But I have seen, as the show's gone on, like, gotten into some more fantastical things, like you had basically Sailor Moon show up.
Yes, yeah, Sparkle Cadet.
Yeah.
I think that we've definitely like. We made an animated show, so we knew we wanted to make use of animation and push things. It wouldn't be totally grounded. As much as I love King of the Hill, it was like we had to take it a step above that. And then as we worked with our board artists and the ideas they would bring, they sort of kept, their excitement of like pushing the envelope a little bit. We really started to kind of open it up, and it became so much more visually rich of a show. And I think that we don't have hard rules, but it feels like, anything can happen in the creek when the kids are around because that's how the kids are seeing it. Like we can do these really crazy things because that's how the kids are perceiving it. Because when you're young, you tell these stories about, well, when I was in the woods, I got chased by this dog and it was huge. And like, really, it was a small dog and it was a tiny woods. But like in your memory, it's a blockbuster movie of you running away from this dog. So we've sort of applied that to the kids, and we try not to have, the adults are a little separated from that, but we've even thrown that rule out the window with episodes like Sour Candy Trials.
That's a wild one, the Sour Candy Trials, yeah. The music, too, we talked about the ska influence.
Yeah.
Like, the composer, Jeff Rosenstock.
Yes, yeah.
That's, he comes from a ska background.
Yeah, Jeff is like a New York-based musician, very like DIY punk ska dude, and he, Ben. But the music is Ben's forte, and he was someone that Ben from the very beginning was like, this is the guy I want to bring on to do the show. And Jeff is incredible and has so much range. You might know him from his rock stuff, but like what he's been able to bring to the show and do like R&B stuff and like all kinds of great music for the show. He's such an incredible collaborator, and we have a lot of really fun stuff that he's done for us that's coming up.
I assume he wrote the Family Matters sound-alike intro?
Yes, he did write that.
That's a great
short.
clip.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
Thank you.
was your shorts have just started releasing around this time. Yeah, those were great. Very great snackable content.
My favorite part of that fake opening is that it is very much the sitcom, people reacting to their credits, but it does go into the fantastical, which is what the real Family Matters went into. Like now you're on a pirate ship, now you're shrinking, now you're being chased by dinosaurs.
Yeah,
that's how the real show. That's where the real show went.
Yep. We wanted to pay homage to every season of that completely bonkers television show.
Well, yeah, let's talk about the cast too.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have an amazing cast. Like you have a ton of voice acting and acting veterans like Phil Lamar and Terry Crews
Mm-hmm.
and Noel Wells and Michael Corden. But then you also have a lot of folks who this is like their first credit or one of their earliest credits, including your lead actor Phil.
Yeah, Philip Solomon. He was we made this show about kids, but it was hard to figure out what we wanted all the voices to sound like, because it was like, well, there are great kid actors out there, but if we're gonna go hard in the direction of all kids, we're gonna need a lot of great kid actors. And we also, the comedy we like, there were comedy people we like that could deliver the jokes in a way that we were like, well, we don't want to do all kids. We want to be able to bring in some of these fun talents. Like we've gotten like John Gabris to come in and do a voice, which is just great and everything. But so figuring out what Craig was going to sound like was hard. But then we want Craig to be this character that our young audience is going to connect with. And he's brave and he's an explorer, but he's an underdog too. And so we went in the direction of hiring someone younger, and we found Philip, and he was just he was just like a new teenager, I think, at that point. He was awesome. His like headshot we got was him just like 3 feet off the ground doing a jump kick, and we were like, that's the energy we need. And yeah, it's like it's so cool. It was because Phil Lamar, of course, many credits, does Craig's older brother Bernard, and it was so cool when we were recording just the pilot of seeing Phil Lamar in there with Phil Solomon and him giving him tips on like lay out your pages like this on the stand, and you'll be able to read this. And we were like,
great.
Yeah, he's mentoring him. This is it. If this. And it's just so cool to have like these veterans, these legends, and like new talent coming in, and just like really like, yeah, Philip's awesome. So many of his like screams, I'm like, those are real kid screams. Like
great.
Your energy is the same as when like kids are running around in my backyard. That's the scream I hear. That's not an actor scream.
How often do they record together? Is it rare to have actors together?
No, people have things like people are in and out sometimes because of other things, other commitments, but for the most part, our core cast, H. Michael Kroner, who does JP, and Noel Wells, who does Kelsey, and Philip, they're there together pretty much all the time, and we work pretty hard to get our guest actors in with them. There's some people it's hard, but for the most part, they're there together, and the three of them, I think, have really, even though Philip is this young kid, and H and Noel are older established actors, like there's like a friendship and a bond there with them that, you know,
Aw.
it's really great. And to see it, you know, you see it reflected in the show too.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a lot of podcasting favorites that are on this show. Like, I love the Wild Horses and like playing the Horse Girls.
Yeah.
and Jessica McKenna, like she just is a big kid. Like she's
Yeah.
so great at playing a big kid.
Yeah,
Like,
she is amazing doing handlebarb on the 10 speeds. Yeah.
Oh, and I mean Karen Kilgariff and her partner
Georgia Hardstark.
yes,
Playing the Witches of the Creek, which is another set of teenagers, goth teenagers.
This is our audition, by the way,
yes,
for future characters.
Got it.
The TV obsessed nerds.
well, they already got the elders. But if the elders had some friends.
Yeah. The elders may have some friends. We'll figure it out.
right.
Yeah.
But no, like those voices are all just so great, and like it was so awesome to just hear. The second I heard the Wild Horses, like I knew like that was Lauren Lapkus or that because they are some of my favorite comedy guests out there. So
Yeah, it was really awesome to have them. Early in the show's run, our friend Shauna McGarry was our head writer for the first season, and she has so many connections in the comedy world that she was like, you should get the Wild Horses to the Horse Girls. It's the most obvious dumb connection in the world, and it was almost like, if we offer them this, are they going to be like, this is... You want the Wild Horses to play Horse Girls? Come on. But I think Erin Whitehead is actually a horse girl.
Oh.
So I don't want to blow up her spot, but I think, and so, but they're great. They've been so great to work. Everyone has been just so wonderful to work with.
No, and you've also had some really like great guest stars too, like especially your most recent episode at the time of the recording, the Thanksgiving episode of the Kids Table. You had Tisha Campbell and Lil Rel and Keith David.
Yeah.
Like that was
Phil Morris's granddad.
Yeah. Phil Morris. Yeah. The Jackie Childs for Seinfeld fans.
So we have 3 generations of Phils playing 3 generations of the Williams, because Phil Morris is the granddad, and Bernard, Phil Lamar plays Bernard, and Phil Solomon plays Craig. But that was a record where we made sure we worked incredibly hard to have everyone there, which was crazy because we have Terry Crews is the voice of Craig's dad, and he's busy on a couple of things, so he's often hard to get in. But we were able to coordinate and get that whole family together to record those episodes, or that episode is a half hour. Yeah, that was just awesome. That was awesome to be able to have them there.
And a whole episode built around Del the Funky Homo Sapien, too.
Yeah. That was like an early idea of just like being big fans of Deltron and being like, wouldn't it be cool if we could just do this? And we reached out to him and had a meeting with him, and we showed him some like... He came in very cool, and we were like, oh, this guy is so cool. And we showed him some artwork we had done for like, here's what we were thinking what the character could be like. And he was like, who did this? And we were like, our character designer, Danny Hines, who worked on Steven Universe. And he was like, oh, I love Steven Universe. And we were like, yes, we're in. We're in. Steven Universe saves the day again. We will ride that train to our death. And he was great. He just, he wrote original songs for the show.
They're so great.
And Automator did beats, and it was like, it was like, wow, thank you. It was okay. Thank you for doing that. It was amazing.
And I guess listeners would be disappointed if I didn't ask about gay stuff, but the witches did just get to kiss in the Halloween episode. That I was like, whoa.
Yeah,
wow.
Totally. Yeah, I think that Steven Universe was at the forefront of new representation in kids media, and especially with LGBTQ plus characters. And it's something that seeing the way that fans, what it meant to people to see that on Steven was, it's really what so much of what we do on Craig is because of like the power these things can have for people who maybe don't see themselves on television a lot. And we are constantly trying to find ways to diversify our cast. And the witches, great. Craig's cousin Jasmine is gay, and we're continuing to look for opportunities and stuff. It's interesting doing a show with kids and about kids and that kind of stuff. because just in general with like relationship stuff, like boyfriend girlfriend stuff, we don't do because their kids are so young.
Yeah, they're too young. Yeah,
but just all kinds. There's all kinds of opportunities in the show. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I really like the kind of sweet friendship between the Honeysuckle Ranger guys too.
Yes,
they're very nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're coming back very soon once we start airing again.
Well, yeah, I guess my last question for this section of the podcast is like, what does the future of Craig hold now that you just had your big Thanksgiving special?
Yeah, we have more of season 2 to come. I think they've announced season 3. They did that a while ago. Yeah, so there's plenty. There's a lot more to come. There's a lot more. We'll be revisiting a lot of characters we sort of have introduced. I feel like our first season we tried to introduce so many new characters, and then it was like, oh, we got to go back to those characters. They can't just be one-off. So we'll be bringing back a lot of people. More stuff with the Honeysuckle Rangers and the other side, all of the other neighborhood of Hercleton Mills, because our kids live in Hercleton Farms. And just when you're a kid and you don't have a car, the neighborhood a couple of blocks over is like another country. So we're going to be, that's our sort of like playing in the sandbox of Steven, of like telling an ongoing story. Much sillier, much lower stakes, but we're using a couple of the tools from Steven on that element of the show.
Nice. All right. Well, I can't wait to see more of that. But
Me too.
Yeah. Okay. But why don't we take a break? When we come back, we will talk about the 16th episode of Craig of the Creek, Under the Overpass.
I'm here from the future. I know you don't believe me. I'm Deltron. This is Automator. We had to retreat somewhere remote where we could be alone. Continue our studies of the ancient funk flows. Didn't expect to see others in this zone. My calculator is off. I thought I was alone. Keep this creek a secret, you understand. There could be soldiers from the future tracing where I am. My mission, uncover more analog jams. The music is my muscles. Without it, it's no chance. The people in control of the future have their hand in everything, telling me not to do that. I feel that maybe this might be the place to replenish my supply before it totally evaporates.
I'm Craig, and there's a few things I've learned from exploring the exciting world of the creek. Be adventurous. Be brave. Yeah! Be daring.
Time to step into history. Whoosh.
And most of all, be yourself.
There is more where that came from, babies.
The creek is a place where we can all be whatever we want.
Man, I'm so excited.
New show, Craig of the Creek, coming in March. Can't wait. Watch it now on the Cartoon Network app.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to The Break. It's Henry Gilbert, one of your elders of the creek.
Hey, everybody, it's Bob. I'm over here sipping on a honeysuckle IPA, and it's disgusting.
And a big thank you to our guest this week, Matt Burnett. We're so happy to finally talk about the series he co-created, Craig of the Creek, and we hope you guys really enjoyed this too. And if you'd like to hear more What a Cartoons, including next week where we talk about OKKO with friends of the Craig of the Creek show, Ian Jones-Cordy and Toby Jones, you could hear it right now.
That's right. If you sign up for just $5 at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons, you can get all of our podcasts 1 week ahead of time and ad-free. And you'll also get everything behind the $5 paywall. That's everything we've done for the Patreon for the past 2.5 years. Over 100 bonus podcasts that you haven't heard if you are not subscribed. That includes, frankly, too many podcasts to go into here, but I'll try to cover them as fast as I can. We've got all of our mini-series, including Talking Futurama, Talking of the Hill, Talking Critic, and the newly unfurling Talking Futurama Season 2 Part 1 rolling out through the end of 2019. We also have interviews, end-of-season wrap-ups, deleted scene specials, monthly community podcasts, and so much more. And that is just what's happening at the $5 level. Henry, can you tell folks out there what's happening at the $10 level at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons?
Yes, if you want to go to the premium level, that's as tasty as a honeysuckle, then you want to go to $10 a month to get to hear the What a Cartoon movie podcast. It's like this podcast, except once a month we go for twice as long and talk about an animated feature film. Our most recent one was for Toy Story, the Pixar classic. This month in December, we're going to be doing The Iron Giant, the cult classic from Brad Bird. And if you signed up, you'd get to hear a whole year's worth of a back catalog, over 40 hours of love exclusive podcasts, us talking about films like A Goofy Movie, Akira, Kiki's Delivery Service, Batman Mask and the Phantasm, Tiny Toons How I Spend My Vacation, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and so many more. You'll definitely want to hear all of those, and you only can if you're at the $10 premium level at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
And if you've never signed up for Patreon before, it's super easy. Once you sign up at whatever level you choose, you'll get a nice little code. You can just drop that code into whatever you use to listen to podcasts, and that will let you download our bonus podcast alongside all of the free podcasts you already listened to, and you have access to that code at all times. It's super easy to find. If you don't want to do that, you can always download the Patreon app. It is super great and easy to use, and you can find all of our bonus content there once you're signed up. Either way, it is super easy. Become one of our patrons at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
So thanks so much for listening to this break. Now we're going to go back to the creek for the fun adventure of Under the Overpass with co-creator Matt Burnett.
Man, every time we come over to your house, something funny happens. I bet your family could have like their own TV show.
Do you want to sit next to me and tell me about your day?
Got a case of the big bad blues that just won't go away.
Big or small,
Young and old, you don't have to feel so blue. Look up at the sky and find the sunlight peeking through.
whoa,
Somebody loves you.
there's a near to lend when you need a friend.
Somebody loves you when you need it most. There's a hand to hold. Smiles abound in our tender house. It's as plain as day to see. You've got your friends,
Your family and me. You got your friends,
your family.
and me.
Who's gonna help when the danger overwhelms and the mystery's a pile high? Who's gonna be around, never gonna let you down when you run a wild ride? Your treasure always by your side.
Each dog and the creek is gonna sing a day. Each dog and the creek is gonna sing a day.
Okay, let's get into Under the Overpass, Matt. So why'd you want to pick this one over any others?
I think that this episode it showcases Craig and his his spirit of exploration and wanting to see what's out there, because throughout the course of the show, he's always adding to his map. He's always mapping the creek, because maps, just when you're a kid, you just I don't know, if maps are fun, you fixate on them. It's like that Home Alone battle plan, that just somehow drawing out your area and then adding to it with your own iconography, making your own. It's just something I remember about being a kid. But so Craig is always trying to map things, and this is his chance to explore the other side, which is the other side of the overpass, the 295 overpass that divides his neighborhood from Hercleton Mills, which is just one over. But yeah, it was just something to showcase Craig, and I think it was also this episode where we started to, we first sort of hinted at a little bit of an ongoing serialized story that we're telling about this other neighborhood and what kind of kids play over there, which is they're very different from the kids who play on our side of the creek.
Yeah, it was interesting to return to this one after I'd seen The Other Side,
Right.
and then notice stuff you guys put in that I'm like, oh, this explains this moment that was just like mysterious to me in first viewing.
Yeah. It was a little mysterious to us. We had the exploration and discovery is really fun in the writing room, and we had an idea of what we wanted to do with the other side and stuff, and this king who rules the other side. But a lot of stuff just came up from working on Under the Overpass, of just drawing graffiti on the walls of the overpass and be like, well, what could that mean for the society over there, and sort of putting it into the story. Okay, what if we change it and it means like this? So yeah.
And the opening of the show, I mean, let's talk about that real quick. Like the song is great. Like just this ska-rific song bringing you in there, and you see all the characters so like fast and furious.
Yeah, very anime opening.
I was gonna say we have not really talked about anime yet in this discussion, have we?
Yeah, no, we haven't. Really, but yeah, anime is everywhere, man. Like it's changed, man. That's what we grew up on. Everyone coming into the industry now had access to Toonami at the very least, and now it's just even more widespread. And I think it's just like it's this influence that's there, and it's great, and it's just so. It's so inventive and so cool, and bring something new, I think, to Western animation. But at the same time, like we're not trying to ape anything directly or anything. It's just like I don't know. It's just this subtle crackle of energy and everything that we're doing. Everyone is.
It's kind of sticking to a very effective format where it's like here's a nice shot of every character that tells you a lot about them in 5 seconds, and there's a lot of action. Then you get the title card, and that's it. It's like very, very effective.
Yeah.
Was there a certain point when you were making the opening that you're like, we can't add more characters to it, or we wish we could add this character, but it's too late?
It was definitely hard. We had to figure out who's going to make the cut, and we never. I think we fit in everyone we could humanly, everything that we could possibly fit in the very the 20 seconds we had. Yeah, I think we got I think, and also it's like we created the credits pretty early in the show's run, so we sort of had to go with who we had, but everyone in there is a pretty major character in the show. You know, we've got Kit's definitely in there, who we'll talk about in this episode, but a very important part of the Creek economy.
Yeah, this and the end song, like who's the singer on it?
That's Jeff.
Oh, it is Jeff.
Oh,
yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, the second I hear the horns at the beginning of it too, it just makes me want to jump up and down. Like,
pick up change, perhaps.
Yeah, I had a ska summer, which was really just listening to Real Big Fish.
That was my ska summer too. I was very into Real Big Fish for whatever reason. I think I had a CD-ROM game that had one Real Big Fish song on it, and I was like, I'm into them.
Guitars and trumpets? I'd never heard it before.
A winning combination.
Yeah.
And so this episode, the boarders were Deshaun and Naja.
Yeah, Deshaun Mahone and Naja Porter.
And what was this their first one to board?
No, in the rotation, this would have been probably their third, I believe. Yeah, it would have been their third episode to do, and they've been a team together from the beginning, and they're still a team, and they are absolutely incredible. They are amazing storytellers and artists, and they were just and they were people, we were able to, there have been some people we've been able to hire from, we knew them and stuff, but both, Deshaun was the first person of those two we hired, and he was like, I got this friend, she's kind of new, but she's looking for work. You should check out her stuff. And we saw it, and we were like, oh, yeah, okay, and put them together because they were kind of like internet friends. I think I don't know if they had really spent a lot of time together, and yeah, they're an incredible team. So yeah, this was a big early episode for them, doing some action, putting some action in the show.
Oh, so much action in this one. Yeah, though it starts very subtly with just a single honeysuckle coming down the creek, like this, that brings this new world into Craig's universe. There,
yeah.
Like, so you knew from the beginning that honeysuckles were going to be a big part of the storyline, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think that it's funny. I can't remember because it's so hard because you're writing outlines for episodes you're working on the board for other episodes. So I'm not sure what informed the other in terms of the honeysuckle rangers, but the honeysuckles are just I just remember being so pumped to find honeysuckles as a kid.
This show taught me a lot about honeysuckles, by the way. When I was taking notes for this episode, I went, he finds a lily, and then it's like, it's all about honeysuckles, like backspace, he finds a honeysuckle. I didn't even know about the thing where you can drink the nectar or whatever.
I never tried that.
It's always fun to educate, depending on where you grew up in the country, people on the crew educating other people about this is what a snow day is. This is how it works when it snows and how school closes. And honeysuckle is one of those things where some people were just like, what is that? And then,
so yes, after Craig finds the honeysuckle, we head to the trading tree in this first clip here.
One mood ring, please.
Some of these marbles are a little misshapen.
Oh, well, that's because they're extra rare.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, I need that mood ring. How else am I supposed to know when I'm happy?
Sorry, but no deal.
Man. What about this bird?
Get your own bird. Will you trade for this?
Well, I'm flattered, but I already have a love interest. Commerce.
What? No. It's honeysuckle. It's like candy. You pull out the bottom and suck out the juice. Try it.
Yeah, the instantly profit appears in Kit's head. I love what a committed entrepreneur Kit is.
She's a totally craven capitalist. It's like, yeah.
I was being nice with aggressive entrepreneur, but yeah, there's some other episodes where she kind of sells out everybody just to get some more money.
Yeah. She's a very fun to write that character. She's so much smarter than everyone else when it comes to how money and current and just what the value of things are. That she's able to. She's a kid, but she's outsmarting all the other kids and always turning a profit.
And JP, meanwhile, he's just like pure id. He's desperate for this mood ring. Even steals a bird and offers to give it away. That's not right, Bob. Right?
No, they should be used as currency. Bird smuggling is a serious thing. We'll have a PSA about it at the end of this episode.
And yeah, also all those poor shippers of Craig and Kit together there when Craig
yeah. It's a Sam and Diane thing. They'll never, I don't know. Yeah, will they? Won't they? Probably not. They're children. So, but they have such a fun dynamic, and they have other episodes together where we've developed that more. But yeah,
and this really made me want a mood ring. I didn't have any of those as a kid either. It would be something I'd hear about in other cartoons. But yeah,
it's like a very 70s thing. But that got added in there, and it was just so. Some of the jokes coming up about him not understanding what the colors actually, what emotions they're connected to. It's too funny of a joke to let go.
Yeah, was that tough in the animation side of things to say like, okay, in this scene his ring is purple now?
It's that kind of thing where you're like 4 scenes, 31 through 67. Please use the green color model. 4 scenes, 68 through this. Please use the purple color model. And then you get back that one outlier scene. You're like, it was supposed to be purple. Please change it to purple. Please.
Yeah, just to include a new accessory on a character is a big deal because if you watch any show, like a watch will appear on an arm for one scene and then go away.
Yeah. We were like, track that ring.
Well, JP transforms a lot because he just gets filthy or breaks an arm.
To removes one or more items of clothing. Yeah, JP, a lot of iterations of that character's side.
I love his giant hockey jersey. Like he reminds me of kids too, of just like the slower kid who's like a couple years older than everybody who's still hanging around. Like, I like that.
Yeah,
about it
JP's an awesome character. Like, he's really based on like just this memory I have of high school of the kids that I would hang out with before homeroom bell would ring, when we would just get in the cafeteria after the bus would drop us off and we would hang out. And they weren't my friends, but they were in the cafeteria, and it was and I don't remember their names, but there was one kid who just wore a hockey jersey to school every day. And that was all I remember about him, was that he was just a kid who wore a hockey jersey and sat there. And I was like, yeah, what's that guy like? And that was JP. And JP is a character who's definitely been informed by all of the board artists who developed a real sweet spot for him. And we never wanted him to be like a very too stupid of a character or too dumb. We don't want the comedy to be that he's not smart. It's more that he's just has a very he lives in a reality one step next to ours. And the board artists have made him such a sweet character. It's really been to his benefit.
And I love his family life too, JP. His family's so cool. Like all the family life he made for the supporting characters is, you don't see them as much as you see Craig's family, but they're pretty rich too. Like deep, I should say, not like rich. Monetarily. After Kit tastes the honeysuckle, she's like, I gotta have all of these, and she's gonna send them on a mission. I like that JP also thinks he's like, to give a please, he's like, I did a whole please for that. Like he thinks it's a limited source, the pleases. But yes, they decide that they're going to go on an adventure.
Okay, if you can get me more of that honeysuckle, I will give you 1,000 more moon rings.
Nah, that'd be too shiny for my style. I just want like a little sparkle. Oh, but I will take one of those dinosaur grabby guys.
Consider them grabbed.
Craig, give me more honeysuckle.
How do we ask?
Please?
Sorry, I actually don't have any more.
Oh man, I pleased for nothing. I really want those dino grabbies. Now my dreams are extinct.
Well, maybe we can take my map, go upstream, and look for a honeysuckle bush?
Yes! A water quest! I can hold my breath underwater for 20 minutes while punching a shark as Mortimer pecks out its eyes!
Well, can we go, Craig, please?
You guys don't have to ask me twice to explore the creek. After all, I am.
Whoa.
I love the knuckle tats.
Yeah, that was so great.
Yeah. So does like actually hearing the actors, like once you start writing the show, does hearing the actors more and more help define the characters for you? Because I like all the actors a lot, but I think the character or the man who plays JP has the most surprising line readings in the show.
H. Michael Kroner was, thank goodness we found him, because finding JP, we wanted him to have a Southern accent, but it was hard to kind of clarify, like, it's not a goofy blue-collar comedy kind of accent. We want it to be, it's more Danny McBride. It's just Southern is incidental to it. And H came in and just nailed it. It was like, oh, yeah, after a lot of people, it was like, this guy gets it. He has a real strong improv background, so he's able to, which we love, all of our actors to be able to just kind of riff a little bit if they have an idea in the booth. And he has brought so much to that character and odd line reads and just funny interpretations. It's so he's so perfectly embodied that character. Yeah.
And did that Map Boy posing, was that one of those things like comes in the board, or was
that was a total nausea add to that? Just like came out of no. It's great when you see those things in pitches because even at the storyboard pitch, you're like, I know what this story is. We've gone over it several times, and then that kind of stuff comes in and catches you completely off guard, and you just completely bust up.
The map is important in Craig in like most episodes, but especially in these kind of mythology episodes, like the map is so important. So I love even in this first one of the Honeysuckle stories, like the map is key. Like him wanting to just fill in the map is so important to him here. Yeah, and so they get in there like kiddie pool. I love their kiddie pool boat.
Yeah, I love the raft that's just an inflatable pool. Yeah,
and you talk about how they treat the stakes so high. It's like they do treat going in the creek as drowning and death.
Right. But it's important to remember that you can see the bottom of the creek, and if a character goes in it, they can stand up beyond their waist, because that is why they don't have to wear life preservers.
Yes. So they're searching for honeysuckles in this next clip here.
First mate JP, take us away!
Aye, aye, Captain! Cast off! Oh, wait.
See anything, Kelsey?
We're at a fork!
Well, which way do we go?
I doubt a flower can make it through the sewer. And if it did, it wouldn't taste like honey. I bet it came from that way.
Full speed, that way!
Rocks ahoy!
Like Craig's the navigator, Kelsey's the captain, and JP's the engine.
Yes.
All perfect rules. The engine, yeah.
I love, and you also see like Craig smarts coming in there, that he actually makes like good deductive reasoning about why the honeysuckle couldn't have come from one direction but the other. Yeah. The sewer kids, there's those kids are gross. I would not have befriended those kids.
They're great. They're great. I love I grew up as a pool rat, and I like that little vibe that they have. Yeah, and they were from the pilot. That was nice to have designed so many characters for the pilot that we could just port over to the show. So we love the sewer kids and the sewer queen. Yeah,
I didn't. I was jealous of pool kids. I didn't have a pool growing up. My family could have had one, but I think my dad just really didn't want the upkeep on it.
I had the classic rust bucket above ground pool.
we had our neighborhood pool that I would walk to and stuff. And that's something's an area we'll figure out how to mine that one day, hopefully.
There is kind of like a subtle time passing on the show too. Like summer started in one episode. And,
yeah. There's a little bit of passage of time, and we're gonna. It's Simpsons rules. These kids never need to get older. But I think that, there is so many, especially on the East Coast, your world changes as seasons come and go. So, we're going to play with that a little bit more in the future.
I really like the one that was about, say, pocket-sized monsters. That it was all about evolution and growing up. That was a really good one.
Yeah, very timely episode to revisit right now.
So they head upstream, and that's where they get to the overpass. Now, the overpass design, that's so good. Like, it's all the character design, but also like the background artists too. They find so many ways to add like personality to things that still look like I could believe someone made that in real life, or that was really spray painted on something.
Yeah, Corey Fuller is our lead background artist, and she and her team are incredible. And they all are able to just capture this, making it so grounded and making it look like, it's just an overpass. An overpass is where people kind of toss their trash over, so it's a little bit dirtier of an area, but yeah, she's phenomenal.
Yeah, I like that they know they're getting closer to the overpass because garbage starts showing up in the creek. Yeah. Now one of my favorite of the idealized Kid Could Make It ones was I believe the episode's called Future is Cardboard. That's like the crazy stuff that happens with cardboard, and that it's so fun.
Yeah, the Carter Brown, our take on a Walt Disney of cardboard, who built a cardboard fort that can turn into a giant mech. And that's that's the farthest. That cardboard episode, that's a reality breaker. But it was too cool. It's too cool of an idea to not do. You don't want to let rules box you in when you could be doing giant cardboard robot episodes. So
so they head through this spooky overpass. Did you guys put a lot of thought into the markings on the wall, because you'd be using them later?
We did. It was certainly like a lot of the iconography was just kind of half invented by the board artist, half invented by the background team of we thought it would be cool to add this in. And there's the symbols in there. That's like the circle with the spokes on it was something we knew we wanted to seed, because the other side is Herkelton Mills, and a watermill wheel is something that we, and the other side, that's where kind of their fort is based. All these kids who hang out over there, and but a lot of it was just sort of like cool graffiti that was added in, and being like, we thought it could kind of be like this, and there's all these handprints in there.
That's the creepiest.
Those are the coolest, yeah.
Yeah, that's something that was like, that would be creepy cool, but we've kind of worked the idea of hands into the mythology a little bit. So, it was, it's just like, it was fun to keep adding to it as everyone had ideas.
It was fun to ground the idea of this mysterious land, and that JP had been there before to buy dress shoes.
Yeah,
he's been there for a very, very boring thing.
Yeah. I like, and it's like a haircut that takes Craig to the other side of the creek. Yeah. I like that the parents can take them there for these special moments.
Yeah, for a car, it's no problem to cross a highway, but for a kid, it's the Rubicon. You're not gonna,
but yes, the creepy tunnel is in the next clip here.
We're farther up the creek than we've ever been before.
Make sure you draw on all the creepiness, with some squiggly lines or something.
Guys, look.
Whoa. Okay, the creepy level of this place just went from a 5 to a...
We must be crossing into Herkelton Mills.
I've never been to that neighborhood, except to get dress shoes from that shoe store they got.
Whoa. I wonder who did all this.
There's so many.
What do you think they all mean?
Sorry, I'm allergic to the dark and tension.
With the isolated clip, no visuals for us sitting here, you can really just hear the great sound design too. Especially that weird screechy, not quite music, just dissonance in the background.
Yeah.
Really adds to the scene.
That's like original compositions each episode, right?
Jeff does, there's themes he pulls from, but it's original compositions, and he's just, he's awesome. It's so great.
And when they're going there too, I like that Mortimer is scared by a crow. That's some realistic bird stuff there. It's like, a wild bird here? Jeez. I like that he can, when needed for like action or something's happening, he can just go in Kelsey's hair and then pop out when
Oh
when they're out of the
yeah.
water or whatever.
The Kelsey design where you can just see wings sticking out of her bun. She's a great character.
I like to Kelsey, her kind of arc. She has like a mini arc in this of just like she acts super brash before of why, like she's so excited for this, like basically a water level like in the video game of her life, but now when she's actually here, she's the most scared of any of them there.
Yeah. Kelsey is she knows her limitations, and I think she's read enough books to know what an ominous situation looks like and knows to get out of there.
Yeah, there's a 295 sign on the overpass too, so that I mean that's more Delmarva right there.
Yeah,
right?
South to 295 is what I would take if I wanted to drive from my childhood home down to the area where Ben grew up.
Nice.
So yeah, it runs through Jersey and all the way down. It's what I would take to drive down to the Baltimore Comic-Con every year.
Oh, good times. I just remember driving down a similar highway just to get to the Orlando Comic-Con.
I'm more of a 680 man.
If it's even, it goes horizontal, and it's 5 that goes down, right?
Maybe.
I
think you just cracked the code, Henry.
Whoa.
I also like a great JP jump scare moment there too. Just his sneeze, and he even recognizes like, yes, there's tension here. Like that's why I'm sneezing.
Yeah, JP's the closest character to knowing that he is on a television show.
He even could notice, like in the Family Matters thing, he even noticed he didn't have a crater by credit.
Yeah. He got the raw end of that deal.
But yeah, they make it through the creepy tunnel and they find all the honeysuckles. They start collecting them. I like that JP puts them all in his pants and just says, "I can't wait for the kids to have these." Just so innocent. He just it's the easiest place to put them.
Yeah.
But yes, as they head back, Kelsey freaks out.
This was a really great idea. I'm glad we came here.
Yeah, I feel purple too.
Now maybe we can get a better look at those symbols and maybe get some pictures.
Yeah, I think we got time for that. Get down!
Kelsey, what's going on?
Ooh, that scary ponchoed kid. He's
and we see the bow this early too.
Yeah. That bow is scary. Like that.
Green poncho. Yeah, and his real bow. We've dressed up. He's become more of a green arrow with his arsenal to keep from shooting anything too sharp at kids. But the green poncho is a cool character. This was his introduction episode. He's voiced by Zena Robinson, who's awesome. And we play a little mysterious with him at first, but he becomes more of an ally later. But he's such a making like a kid superhero in a way in the creek. It was just really fun. He brings a whole totally different vibe to the show. He takes himself so seriously, almost even more so than Kelsey does.
Yeah, the tone changes so much when he appears in a scene. Yeah, Kelsey as a warrior recognizes another warrior and hides. And also archer versus knights, it's a tough one if you're not close up.
Yeah, if you're at a range, you better get out of there.
They make it safe. Oh, also when they splash in the water, that was I noticed just a little detail. Mortimer jumping in Kelsey's bun, right in that moment. Yeah. We see a lot of Craig doesn't bring it around with him all the time, but his bedpost, he's carrying it a lot in this episode.
Right. Yeah. The banister from Granddad's house that had to get sawed off because he got his head stuck in it. The staff comes and goes depending on what kind of action Craig needs to do in the episode. If it's convenient for him to have something in his hands. Yeah, Craig's attire of the staff and the purse and the hoodie armor, making everyday kid wear feel like a Final Fantasy outfit.
Yeah, the little crystal at the top that really makes it there.
Oh, yeah.
It reminds me more of the Kingpin from Marvel Comics too.
Yeah.
His diamond on top. But so they get back. They sell all the honeysuckles. They're a huge hit, and JP gets both Dino Grabbies. He's the richest kid in the creek. I love his pronouncement. I never had those as a kid. I think I maybe had one of those Grabbies grab her arms, but I think my mom was right not to get them because I would have stopped playing with them in a day. Once you grabbed things out of your reach twice, it's kind of over.
Not the firmest grip on those either.
Yeah, they're also they're powered by a single rubber band that given the fact that it's probably been like hanging on a Chuck E. Cheese prize shelf for 3 years, the rubber band is so brittle it's going to last you like 2 grabs and then it's done.
And one of them is immediately very disagreeable of having some going through some things, I think, in this episode.
Yeah. Was that an outline or was that one of those improv moments?
A lot of that definitely came from Deshaun and Naja and them arguing with each other and sort of the distinct personalities of Clutchosaurus and Squeeze Rex.
And I also love he's one of those like great JP lines where he just says something like, I have a family now. Like just or about like another of my favorites of JP's is when he goes like, oh, it's adorable. That's it's so sweet the way he says these things.
Yeah, he's such a gentle giant.
Were there notes for the different JP dinosaurs, or were those all created by the board artists?
Oh, the imagined ones?
Yeah, there are like 4 different versions of him as a dinosaur.
That was created by the board artist, and that's the kind of gag where it's like the board artist will draw it, and you're like, oh, that's 4 different dinosaur designs, but they're so funny looking. And then they were made funnier when they went to color, and our colorist colored them JP colored instead of dinosaur colored. They're just these fleshy dinosaurs with orange highlights, and you're like, that is so weird. This is going to be great. I love this.
So the outline called just for one design, and you just wanted to use all of them?
I don't even know if it called for any design. Wow. I can't remember. I don't think it was Imagine the Dinosaurs.
I did love seeing that, yeah.
Yeah, it was great. Such a great joke.
So the kid knows just where to get JP to convince him to go by, and Craig doesn't need any convincing. He just wants to go back to see all those. He's more curious than cautious. Like that's a good balance with him and Kelsey in this episode. That he's super curious and she is incredibly cautious. Doesn't want to see any of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Each character, I think, Deshaun and Naja are particularly drawn, I think, to sometimes when the characters we love to show them as best friends and getting along, but it's always good to have conflict between them, and they're really drawn to these episodes where there's a tension between what they want or what they're after and stuff. And Craig just. Yeah, if he gets his mindset on something, he's going to go for it, and it's often it can be to the detriment of everyone else, but they're always there getting each other's backs,
Yeah, he's a very focused kid. I like to. I think a perfect Craig line is when he says he says, "I'm perfect. It's my one flaw."
Yeah, it was a great line.
So they decide that they're going to head back up the creek.
Well, I really want to study those symbols.
That's why we should go back. Don't listen to him. He doesn't have a brain. Why are we arguing? We're on the same side. You don't control me.
Sorry, but no. Look, you want to explore the whole creek, and that's fine. But that overpass was dangerous. There are some places we just shouldn't go.
Kelsey, if we thought like that, we wouldn't have found half the stuff on my map. The sewer kingdom, the popcorn graveyard, the invisible city. Wait, I think that was here. Oh, and JP! Remember when we found JP?
I was surrounded by spikes and fire.
Yeah, I guess that was pretty cool.
Please, I have to know what that symbol means.
Oh, fine. But the first sign of trouble and we're out of there.
Cool, I'm coming too. There's safety in numbers. And numbers in money.
She's like the Scrooge McDuck of this show.
Yeah.
I also like just 2 distinct screechy dinosaur voices there.
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen yet a flashback to how they met JP. Have they?
No, we haven't. But that's been that kind of throwaway joke that for some reason everyone has latched onto. And now, if we ever do how they meet, we're gonna have to figure out a way to make that line make sense because everyone, the crew, we loved it so much. It's like, well. Backwards engineer that at some point.
I guess we learned from Toby and Ian that when you have fire on a kid's cartoon, it has to be blue or just non-realistic.
Non-realistic. We'll figure out a way to do non-realistic fire.
That fire's going to be tough. Yeah. Now, on Adventure Time, they had just a one-off line for something, and then like 7 years later, they're like, all right, let's tell the story behind that character.
Yeah.
Let's hear Peppermint Butler's story. I like how just the dinosaurs just take take on a mind of their own instantly the second he gets them, which they are better as puppets than grabbers.
Yeah.
They're pretty strong in this episode, though. Well, actually, I guess they're only picking up like trash bags full of flowers. They can't be that heavy.
Yeah.
They head up the creek. Kelsey is being very cautious. Another great pose in it is when Kit reveals her garbage bags that she brought. Like that's like such like a great like anime or like I got a new item pose from a video game.
Yeah, just always trying to. We always want to make it visually interesting, but sometimes we're just like, well, the scene's kind of just very simple. Let's jazz it up with some anime, and it's just like, pulling out trash bags. Let's make it the most exciting trash bag pull ever.
And they're pretty good.
Yeah,
apparently
they seem like they're talon resistant. Actually, Bob, you should see the Vulture's Nest episode too.
Ooh,
I don't
okay.
think you see that's another like it's kind of anti and pro bird, I guess.
I want to hear both sides.
Yeah.
it's pro bird in the end.
Yeah, so they head up the creek, and this time, like Craig is doing the rowing because JP is just using his dino grabbies to watch the water, make sure it's clear. Also, Mortimer, like I think, gives an accurate report to her, like Nacho wasn't there, so
she's sort of like in a bird's nest, right?
It's sometimes she.
Crow's nest. The crow's nest, not a bird's nest.
But she can. She can talk to Mortimer pretty well sometimes.
Yeah, she thinks she does. Yeah, so he really has become far more realistic or far more of a character than I think we initially set out to do, because we just thought it would be funny if Kelsey treated him like he was a character, but we just like treated him like a real bird, and he almost was not paying attention to her ever. But the Borders have given him such a personality that he's a little bit more human.
I love when Craig created a bug town, and then just the look on Mortimer's face when he sees all the bugs.
Yeah, he can't help himself.
But yes, they return to the overpass.
That's it, huh? The overpass y'all were talking about?
Yeah, it's even creepier than before.
No sign of that Archer kid. Mortimer says the coast is clear.
The water is clear, too!
Looks like luck is on our side. Maybe, right? And this symbol's all over the tunnel. It must be important.
Let's go.
Okay. Just one picture.
That's key. It's another, like, that's the moment where it feels like a modern show, too. Like, when he just pulls out his phone to take pictures of it. Yeah. That's. I also love on the show that the map really does grow, and you can, like, spot landmarks from previous episodes drawn into the map.
Yeah, totally. The spatial relation is a little bit Simpsons House in that where, you can get to one place to the other and not necessarily know how it works. But, yeah, we like to add the little landmarks as we go along. It's been fun.
And they make it to the other side. They are collecting like trash bag after trash bag full of honeysuckles. I like to JP like promising that he'll have favorites. Like he's a bad parent telling them they're going to be his favorites before they have new kids.
He's planning an entire family, and also to become a dinosaur somehow with enough of them.
I don't know how he thinks that will happen. When he covers himself in dino grabbies, he becomes a dinosaur. And I also like his little line of like 2 eyes, Captain, instead of eye.
Oh, yeah.
Cute line.
Yeah.
And so they're heading back, and they think they're safe, but then the green poncho rears his head. The arrows he shoots are scary at first, but when you find out they're scented marker, like the very specific kind of scented marker, like at least I hope kids still have those same brand of markers in school now.
They do. They certainly do.
They need to smell that same chemical cherry smell that I loved in my childhood.
Yeah.
I loved like the action shot of it streaking across Kelsey's face, and it leaves a mark which like in another show would be blood from a just missed arrow or something.
Yeah, we made sure that it wasn't a cherry marker, it was grape, so it was purple. So yeah, no confusion.
But yes, the Archer is dangerous in this next clip here.
We better pack up and head home.
Already? But there's still plenty of honeysuckle left to grab.
Kelsey's right. The faster we go, the sooner we can get back to those symbols.
Is Captain?
Oh, there's one of those wheel things on that barrel. Whoa!
It's the Archer Kid! Ah! Run! Swift! Run!
Pencil's arrow. That one is a scary arrow. Yeah.
That could do some damage. Luckily, it's not fired at people's bodies.
Yes.
You keep bringing up heavily negotiated parts of this episode. Yeah.
It all works out.
I just love how his arrows kind of reflect that like DIY spirit that so many of the kids in the creek have. There's just everything they take, they tweak and modify in some little way.
With Green Poncho, it's like he's repurposing his school supplies.
Yes,
That's what I love about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also like he's not. These are defensive shots. These are warning shots.
He's trying to warn people off.
Yeah, he's not a bad guy. No, he's not trying to hurt him. But yeah, it's Kit's fault that the boat goes out. She could have just left the pencil in there and it would have been fine.
Amateur move.
Yeah.
She didn't know. She's not an adventurer. She normally isn't getting in on the action like this. So I understand. The boat starts to sink and they realize they have to go overboard. I love how just the intensity that Kelsey says, like, do you want to get half your clothes wet? But it's a really just cool idea of like, a trash bag full of air. Yeah, they could float on that. Sure. Yeah. And at least it feels like one of those things that as a kid I would think, that should work. Yeah.
That's the philosophy we've approached a lot of things in the show with, of like, if that should work. It probably won't, but if you were a kid and you were like, that should work, it'll work in Craig of the Creek.
Yeah, like as a kid, I would have drawn the kind of hideout the kids have that Craig made, but I never would have made it.
Yeah, you could never execute it to the way the blueprint lays out.
Yeah, like to get a door inside of a tree trunk, I don't think I could have done that as a kid, but I love that they have one in there. But yeah, they start to make their escape, and the archer makes one more appearance here, and Craig is a bit worried in this next clip.
At least that crazy kid is gone.
Thank goodness. Please, we'll never come back here again. Promise. Please don't hurt me or my friends. We're just trying to go home.
Home? It's not safe here. Please don't come back.
Ooh. And he lets them go just so they get out of there. But it's such a cool, my favorite moment is where like when he says home, you see his eye for just like a second. Like that's it lets you know this guy, it brings you into the character and he's not just as mysterious as
he's a kid just like them. And there's a lot to explore with him. I mean, we've done subsequent episodes where he's become more of a friend to Craig, and you realize he's kind of trying to look out for Craig and his side of the creek against this tyrannical king who tries to like dictate the way kids can play versus our side of the creek where kids can play however they want.
I liked it. Now I realize he's searching for marks on Craig that would make him one of the Mills kids.
Yeah.
I love that when you can go back in a show and see like, this was setting that up. Like, I mean, Steven Universe has that in spades. Like, it's cool to see. I was loving Craig from the first episode, but it seemed, a simpler, more episodic show at the start. And so then to see all this mythology start to come in, it was just this another great dimension to it.
Yeah, and also to trust the audience and not underline that action too much. Looking at the arms.
Yeah. I think, we couldn't help ourselves from wanting to tell a little bit of a bigger story. Kids are smart. They like clues. They like mysteries. Steven taught me that and a bunch of other shows. So it's been fun to get to tease all this out.
Yeah, I mean, on Steven Universe, you got to see like fan theory after fan theory just explode every episode. I actually, another one of my favorite things you drew online was Steven Universe. One of the final episodes of the most recent season was coming out, and a new Craig was premiering too, and you had a thing of JP saying like, I hear they're going to get shattered in the episode. I read that online.
Yeah.
I love that even JP is like a fan theory kid in the universe.
Of course.
But they escape and with mysteries abound in this last scene here.
I think my creek faring days are over. Can't thank you enough for saving me though. I owe you guys my life.
Well, I don't want your life, but I will take another toy.
What do you got?
I got a mood ring.
Sorry you didn't get the pics you wanted.
It's okay. I'm just glad everyone's all right. Thanks to you.
Nah.
I was just following my warrior instincts.
Seriously, though, your instincts were right on the money. I guess for now, some places are better left undiscovered.
And then when you pick back up this story, he does unfold that part of the map again once it's time to like start it back up. I like that
Right,
too.
yeah, that little extension has been added to the prop.
Yeah. Now, Kelsey, I love Kelsey's posing of like the convenient wind blowing her cape, and like also her head kind of changes shape a little bit when she was like, poof. Oh, come on. Like there's so much fun with her there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that Kit. She says, like, I owe you my life, but no, this is still, you owe me something. We have to trade. The Chop Man, no Choco Rolls though in this episode, but that's my I think favorite fake food in the show for you.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Fake food, cartoon food. I love Cookie Cat. Was the first thing we like figured out on Steven, and then we had to come up with our own thing. So there's Choco Rolls, there's a bunch of other stuff, but yeah, Choco Rolls is the one we go back to. The one that we at one point bought a bunch of name brand stuff and then took them out of the packages and made our own Choco Roll packaging and put them out for like pitch to the executives something to be like, oh, immerse yourself in the world of the creek.
And then we get to the credits theme, which it sets. I mean, this isn't a set rule for every episode of Craig of the Creek, but you assume adventures end when it's time to go have dinner and you're called home by the tuba girl. So that's why I love that the credit song is Craig's eating dinner. He's been called home.
Just the booking of like, it's just a day. Every day ends the same. Back at home with the family.
And it's such a wistful song. I like that too. It makes me. I wish it was like 10 times as long. Like when it's just like 20 seconds. So it's always like, oh no, the song's over.
Yeah, there's an extent. The Thanksgiving special that we had hasn't it. The credits are double length, so there is a little bit of an extended version of it.
Okay, good. I got to re-listen to that one. But yeah, that was a really fun episode of just like a lot of great world building in it, along with some real funny stuff. It didn't reference SWAT cats.
No, I didn't get a SWAT cats reference into this.
Points off.
But no, that was a really fun adventure. Any final thoughts on that one?
Final thoughts on that one? I mean, it just is this perfect episode to me of just like how the little things you get up to as a kid just become this like legendary mythology to you, and you kind of most people hold on to that, and you're still like, when we're in the room with everyone else on the crew just sharing stories, it's like you're telling these like amazing war stories from your past of the time you ran from some kids who were trying to steal your sneakers or something. Like it just becomes this epic tale, and we wanted to bring that and visualize that in the show. So it's just been fun to kind of be like, yeah, all the stupid stuff I did as a kid, it was really cool. It was really cool, and I'm going to show you on TV.
So what is the best way to watch Craig of the Creek?
Well, Craig of the Creek is available on the Cartoon Network app. Every episode of Season 1 and Season 2, if you have a cable login, you can get into it.
And I think at the time of this recording, they're all available, even if you don't have a login. But I know it's not always
right.
the case.
They do unlock weekends from time to time. And so check it out. And we're on the air. I think we've aired Saturday mornings, but we'll be coming back with new episodes at some point in the new year.
And then Amazon, iTunes, all those other places too.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, well, any other plugs, man? I mean, you have a Twitter account. You don't use it as
really
healthily.
You can find me on there if you want to.
There are quite a few underscores in your name, too.
Yeah, there's like 3 underscores or something. There's a bunch of Matt Burnett sitting on all the good ones. But it's no big deal. You could find me on there from time to time talking about magic. That's about it.
Awesome.
And I'll plug the show on there, too.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Matt.
Thank you for having me back. Ben sends his condolences next time. Next time Ben will be here.
Well, get him at least on a Simpsons one.
Yeah. For sure. Oh, he'll have a lot to say about the Simpsons.
So thanks again to Matt Burnett for being on What a Cartoon. Be sure to check out Craig of the Creek wherever you find good animated programming. But as for us, if you want to support our show and get every episode 1 week ahead of time and ad-free, please go to patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. And for the low price of $5 a month, you'll get just that. But you'll also get all of the podcasts behind the $5 paywall. That is over 100 podcasts as of this date. But most importantly, you'll get all of our mini-series. The most recent one is Talking Futurama Season 2, Part 1. 10 new episodes of Talking Futurama to get you through the rest of 2019, and it's all happening at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. Henry, what is happening at the $10 level.
For $10 up Patreon supporters, they get to hear our monthly What a Cartoon Movie podcast, where me and Bob talk about a different animated feature film in the What a Cartoon style, sometimes over twice as long as a normal What a Cartoon podcast. Our most recent one you should hear would be Toy Story, we did back in November. And this month, in December, we're doing The Iron Giant, the Warner Brothers Brad Bird classic. You're really going to enjoy it, and you can only hear the full podcast and all the back catalog if you're a $10 and up supporter at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
So as for me, I've been one of your hosts, Bob Mackey. You can find me on Twitter as Bob Servo. My other podcast is Retronauts. It's a classic gaming podcast every Monday and occasionally on Friday. Go to retronauts.com or just look for Retronauts in your podcast machine. We are a classic gaming podcast. If you have played a video game in the past 40 years, you should find something you'll like on Retronauts. That's all I'll say. Henry, how about you?
You can follow me on Twitter at HENEREYG. I'm sure to tweet out whenever new stuff happens or when we're recording with cool folks in Los Angeles like we did with Matt Burnett this week. And be sure to follow the official Twitter of this podcast and Talking Simpsons at Talk Simpsons Pod on Twitter. You'll stay in the loop with both of those things, so check them both out at HENEREYG and at Talk Simpsons Pod.
Thanks so much for joining us, folks. We'll see you next week for the OKKO Season 3 wrap-up and our discussion of the episode. Thank you for watching the show, and we'll see you then.
Just like I drew it.
Waiting on a tax return? Hopefully it ends up in your hands. Fraudulent tax returns due to identity theft increased by 30% in 2023. If you're in a bind this tax season, LifeLock can help. Our U.S.-based restoration specialists are experts dedicated to helping solve your identity theft issues. And all LifeLock plans are backed by the $1 Million Protection Package. So we'll reimburse you up to the limits of your plan if you lose money due to identity theft. Help protect your information this tax season with LifeLock. Save up to 25% your first year at LifeLock.com/aware.